Good evening and welcome to the first Island Stats Cricket Show for 2021. I'm your host, Earl Basin, and joining me is co-host Andre Doc Manders and Dean Miners, two former Cup match players as well as Bermuda internationals. Well, gentlemen, first of all, we want to start the show talking about current situation. Delray Rollins and his teammates from Sussex today picking up a 8-wicket victory over Glenmorgan. We would all know Glenmorgan because that's the team that David Hemp used to captain at one point in time. They were able to, in the first inning, bowl Glenmorgan out for 285. Sussex would make 480 in the first inning, and then they bowled Glenmorgan out for 349, and then had to make 154 for victory, and they done so, losing 2 wickets. Delray bowled the second inning. He did not bowl the first inning. He bowled 20 overs, 4 maidens, none for 29 in the second inning, an economy rate of 1.95 for the second inning, restricting from one end, restricting the Glenmorgan players. There was one player who scored 2 centuries in the match, and that was Carlson, as well as Ollie Robinson. We all know Ollie. He captained the team that Delray was with when they went down to India, that England select. He finished the game with 13 wickets. He picked up 9 wickets in the Glenmorgan second innings, 9 for 78 off of 30.1. But one thing I did notice, guys, early in this season, there were 18 LBWs in over the 4 days of this match. Both of you had experience of playing in the UK early in the season. Are you surprised, Dean?
Not really surprised. Well, first of all, thank you all for having me to be co-host. Also, Andre, good to see you again.
Nice to see you,
also, I haven't had the opportunity, but I want to say it right now. You have my condolences.
Thank you, brother.
Right, so that's I haven't had opportunity to see you, but I just wanted to say that first of all. I'm not surprised, to be honest with you. I'm really not surprised. As we already know, the conditions in England last weekend was snow. So, of course, it's going to be early times. The wickets over there are slow. They're all over the place at the beginning of the season. So it is going to make, for batsmen especially, they're going to have to make some major adjustments at the beginning of the season.
What about you, Doc? You've played a few seasons over there in the senior division.
And again, thanks, Earl, for being co-host over this cricket get together. But it's true what Dean said. I'm playing over early in the season. Now, you got to remember, they're playing preseason. The temperatures is in the 50s. And they're playing up in North. Now, right. I don't know if you guys noticed it when they played Hampshire last week. It was down south. It's a little warmer. And the wickets are a little bit more harder than up in North. Because when I was playing in England the last couple of years, right, the games in North, I was playing in the league, doesn't start to, I think it's towards the middle of May. Whereas the leagues in the south, down south, New Hampshire, start in April. So when I found out that game was up, when they was playing Lancashire, up, that's where it ran to, right?
Yeah.
That game, yes, up north. I wasn't surprised that it was snowing.
Right.
But like you said, with all those RBWs, like Dean said, the wickets are very soft up north. Now down south, if you saw the game against Hampshire, and when they played, I think it was Lancashire. But Lancashire is kind of up north too. But when they played on south, you could see the totals there. There was some big scores. They already got 40-something. They actually played at Hampshire. And Hampshire's wicket is very good early preseason. So I wasn't surprised. But I know when they was playing up in North, you would get a lot of LBWs because the ball's coming off a little slower and lower, the bunts.
I think looking at a lot of the match over these last 4 days, a lot of the batsmen weren't sure whether to come forward, get back, or it was just that doubt. And someone like, especially Ollie Robinson, who had that pace and that variance where he would pitch it up, he'll hold it back. Some of the players that I think because it's so early in the season, the reaction to each bowl wasn't as sharp as it would have been for quite some time. Now, I remember years ago when you guys were playing Doc with you with Western Stars, Dean with you at St. George's, you guys had the opportunity a lot of times to train in the middle. I know a lot of these professional teams train on the side a lot in a cage. So, you know what I mean? The preparations are just a little different. Now you're out in this big open space. Is there a difference in that scenario, Dean?
It is. It's a big difference. Like you said, you're in a cage and you're basically confined, and a lot of batsmen, I hate being in a cage, especially at the beginning of the season. I couldn't stand it because I felt claustrophobic, and so that didn't bode well for me. I would rather be inside of a gymnasium, which I know many batsmen do. They go inside of a huge gymnasium and they got throwdowns. So I would pretty much prefer that, as opposed to being inside of a cage and someone running into you. And of course, here in Bermuda, we used to have concrete wickets. So you're on a concrete wicket, the ball's bouncing across you, going across your head, or you're trying to get forward, and then all of a sudden, you go out in the middle. Let's say you have a net session on the middle, and the ball's staying low, because again, in Bermuda, the same thing. It's football is being played on it. Although you have a month to prepare for the wicket, it still has time to adjust. And a lot of people and a lot of players wouldn't, they started to come to understand that, the better players will make the adjustment, right? But some players would really, really struggle at the beginning of the season due to the fact that their technique would have to be really refined at the big, and you get found out pretty much easy at the beginning of the season, because if your technique wasn't as tight, you'll be exposed because the ball's bound, the ball's staying low, or you got to make the adjustment really, really quickly. So at the beginning of the season, it's very hard. And also, just to another point is for wicket keepers, the ball at the beginning is staying low. It's not no carry through at all. So of course, keepers have to stay low. And at the beginning of my season, especially for fast bowlers, if you look at my buy rate, it used to be more at the beginning of the season towards the middle and towards the end. You look at my buy rate, you just say, oh, geez, you had a rough day today. And, you're looking at maybe 15 buys, batsmen going ahead and playing and missing, and it's going right across me. It's going right through my legs, because I tended to more or less stand up, or and the ball's going low. So it wasn't, for keepers, it was a nightmare.
Yeah. What about you, Doc, as a batsman, being in a cage, preseason and then getting out into the middle? Did you find it that much more difficult?
I find it difficult. I'm like Dean. I prefer to be out in the middle, but at Stars, we always, maybe on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, we was training in the nets, and then on the Thursday, we train on the wicket. It might not be the same strip we're playing on the Sunday, but at least once a week we try to get out in the middle. And if I go in the nets, it's probably for about 15-20 minutes, and it's just to get in, get some throwdowns or get somebody just to pitch the ball up. Because like Dean said, once you're in the nets, it's confined. Sometimes you hit a ball, you don't know if it's hitting the air, you don't know if you're out because it's hitting the net, and you probably say, if you're training on the field, at least you got fielders, and you hit the ball in the air, it's going to a field, or it's going to be out. In the nets, sometimes you don't. But I definitely would do the same thing. I like to get a lot of throwdowns early in the season anyway. I go in the nets probably 15 minutes before, I go in just to get throwdowns and 15 minutes afterwards. But I'm not a real net person. I prefer to be in the middle.
You find a lot of teams, even once the season starts, nowadays they're still going into the net. Back in the day, you guys had groundsmen that would prepare your wickets for training. That also kept them up, sharp on what they were doing as well. Doc, I was asking you back when you started playing, and I had to raise my eyebrows because I didn't know this. Glenn Gilbert was the groundsman for Western Stars.
Yes, for many years, yeah. And he prepared a wicket for us. Every week, it was a wicket prepared. If it wasn't on the Thursday, it was the Tuesday. Sometimes it'd be bad on the Tuesday because we used to use the same wicket that we played on the Sunday. But pre-season, he prepared 3 wickets, right? 2 was probably for the games, and then was 1 on the side that we used to was training wicket. And I tell you what, when we training in the middle, you get everybody out because everybody wants to bet. When you're in the nets, and guys come because then in the nets you don't need too many players. You need a couple of bowlers, So players have a tendency to come, but once you're playing in the middle, everybody wants to hit, everyone wants to boot, and it's coming on nice. It's tough. So it's something that in the UK they don't do that much because those wickets, trust me, are only for games.
Yeah,
but
right.
in the UK they have wickets, tough wickets prepared in the nets though. The good strips you could go in there, and sometimes you don't even need players to bowl it. You just need a bowling machine. They set it. You can get a rest. It's set at a time where it goes off and you come back to bat. I'm seeing that. So, sometimes you could bet for hours, but it's a strip. It's a decent strip, and it's nice to play one too.
Yeah. Well, Dean, you would have had Mansfield, Bojangles Smith. That was his baby.
Bless his soul. Bless his soul. Yeah, Mr. Smith was, he was top notch. Honestly, all Wendell had to go ahead and say is like, we need a wicket prepared for Tuesday. And sometimes Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we would have a trainer trip, and guys would be in the middle. And I was, it's just, we were spoiled. I would say we were absolutely spoiled. So throwdowns, you could still get your throwdowns, but everybody at that time, I can remember, players wanting to be out in the middle and fighting to wanting to get a hit. And then I remember the captain going ahead and saying, hey, listen, 20 minutes is up. And you're batting with someone and you're thinking to yourself, you're counting balls. Yeah. Because, you're in the middle. So if you only got a 20-minute hit, you're counting the balls and saying to the other guy, hey, look, man, you have 15 balls. So we used to fight to be in the middle to get that time. And I remember Wendell Smith having, teacher mode and stern words with a couple of the players just to say, listen, take it easy, just go to the side. I'll give you some throwdowns because you really want to bet. And that's when your confidence came in as well. In the middle, during the session, during the week, your confidence would you'll feel good about yourself. But those players, and it's true that on a Thursday, if you did not get a good hit, your confidence was a bit low. And so you really wanted to be out in the middle. And just like Doc went ahead and said, sometimes in the nets, when you're playing a shot, a bowler will run in and bowl to you and say, oh, well, that's out. Now you're there in an argument for about a good 15, 20 minutes saying that wasn't out. You wouldn't have had a player there. And bowlers could basically, they're bowling in the nets and say, oh, well, I had a fielder there. I had a fielder there. I had a fielder there. And I had a fielder there. I'm like, you won't have a fielder there. So, being out in the middle, just dismisses all that sort of controversy.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take our first commercial break, and when we come back, we want to talk about when you guys were playing the overs of 60 compared to what these guys play now, 20 and 50. We'll be right back.
Nature's Path Organic are a family business, major proponents of the organic method of food production with decades of experience in the field, and have diversified their interests focusing on animal welfare and children's education in that realm. Hence the introduction of Enviro Kids cereal made to the exacting standards we expect and benefiting their cause. Saving animals one breakfast at a time. 1% of sales goes towards protection of animals and their habitats. We're featuring Enviro Kids organic, gluten-free Gorilla Munch cereal. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
And welcome back to the Island Stats Cricket Show. Doc, when you would have started, we'd have been playing 60 overs. But before we get to that, I want to ask you, how would your top bowler that played with you, how would he fare in the 2020 game? What do you think he would? Who would that bowler be?
Gary Brink had a good line and length, right? Back then.
Right.
First of all, like you said, we played 60 overs. We went played 60 overs, then it went on to 50 overs.
Right. Right.
But you know, Gary would probably be a really good, if you think about it, a 2020 bowler. But then again, he's not that fast. So he would have to really be on the mark. Because, you know, 2020 now, it was all about improvising. You know, these guys playing shots. It's no more about bet and pair together, you know. It's no more that's thrown out the door. So it's a big difference between 60 overs, 50 overs, or 20 overs, you know. But I would say, like, a guy like maybe Gary Brinkman and Roger Laverack, probably be for that's the stars. But, you know, you have some more economical bowlers back then that probably could done the same job. Because sometimes it's not always about pace, it's line and length.
Right.
You know,
right.
I mean, watching the IPL, and I'm like, I see a lot of the fast bowlers sometimes giving up
hammered.
lots of runs, but they might get wickets,
Yeah.
but they give up a lot of runs.
Because
So
of the
the
field
spinners-
position, and yeah, just going. Yeah.
Yep. So it's like the medium to fast, line and length, and maybe it's even the spinner sometimes. You know, if you have a leg break spinner in any of the, like we had Randy Butler, right? There was, you know, we used to come on, if you needed a wicket, we just bring Butler on. You get it. You know? Take him off, you know. So Butler, you know, he was a good leg break bowler, but every team, like St. George's had Chick Adams, you know, they bring the leg break on, Chick, Torp, you know, types. But it's something in both of those, all those games like 50 overs, 60 overs, 20 overs, you need to take wickets. It's very important.
Dean, how do you think Chick would have fared in 2020 when you guys were playing?
Oh, I don't know. That's a very good question, because I think he would have changed the style a little bit. I don't think he would have given that much air. So I think he would have made the adjustments, which would have been, I think with him still talking, it would have got him wickets. You know, because remember, I mean, a good percentage of Chick's wickets came from talking, right?
Oh yeah.
You know, he did a good job, right? But yeah, I think he still would have had more variation. You know, towards the end of his career, I saw him doing a lot more with the ball. So I think that he would have made the adjustment, because even when we went into the 50 over game and it got down toward the crunch time in the last 20 overs of a game, and Chick will come back on, he would do different things. So I think he would have, you know, did well. Looking at our pace bowler, I think, well, I went through a series of so many different pace bowlers, but I think of guys like Ken Pitcher, who would have done left arm to right-handed batsmen. He would have given it a bit more variation. I really enjoy keeping to Ken. The other one was Kenny Phillips. Kenny Phillips was another one, good variation. So Ligue Gibbons, I could go back to Ligue. But then our three spinners, that Calabash and Maxwell Curtis and Chick, those three, I think they would have done quite well. You know, Cala, of course, you know, steady stuck ball. I think he would have had a little bit of trouble, but Maxwell Curtis would have done well, because again, these guys are going away from the right-hander, so it would have been, you know, really, really good. But I think our players were, I don't want to say this, but I have to say it. Our players back then always talked the game. You know, there was always discussion about what we could do different during the game, after the game. So I think they would have made the adjustment. And also, I think that fitness-wise, players back then were really, 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 you know, fit, you know, for all forms of the game. So I think the 2020 wouldn't have been no different.
When the game changed from 60 overs to 50 overs, how much of the teams had to adjust? Because obviously back there you had a bowler who could bowl 12 overs, or one bowler could bowl 15. I think it was like that. But now everybody's got 10. So, you know, those extra overs that the bowler had, he now has to put all those into that one package kind of thing. So how much did the game change?
I don't think it changed that much, because what it is, I'm pretty sure. I think when we played 60 overs, I think it was 12 overs per ball. I'm pretty sure. Dean could correct me. But when we went to 50 overs, it was 10, so it's 2 overs more. But I think the difference is it's lying in length and getting those early wickets. You know, in any overs competition, you need to get wickets. You know, you see it in the 2020, like, you know, if you get early wickets, it's putting pressure on the batsman coming in. But if you don't get those early wickets, you know, teams are scoring. You know, you're looking at a big total. So that's why you need some of your best bowlers bowling early, and you need a bowler that could come in the middle to bowl tight. And Dean mentioned Maxwell Curtis. Oh, I see. Maxwell was a really good bowler and playing for St. George's at that. Maxwell bowled 10 overs, he's giving up 20 runs, and it's got 1 or 2 wickets. Calabash too, those guys. Now Chick was a little different. Chick would, you know, he's like Dean said, he's gonna talk, but he's gonna give up runs, but he's gonna get wickets. But it's hard to say like the difference between 60 overs and 50 overs. I think just the 50 overs was probably more exciting than the 60 overs. That was like 20 overs. The 2020 is more exciting than the 50 overs.
Right.
So you know, I think that's why they probably done it that way.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you make that point. Is St. George's, what St. George's did, what Randall did, he shifted us. And what he did, he shifted us into being more aggressive in the field. And I'll never forget, it actually changed. I think it was up at Warwick. Warwick had scored 125, and we were playing a 50 over game. They scored, we scored 125, and we knocked them down under 125. But our fielding started to really, really improve. We stepped it up in our fielding. So we knew back then, I believe Randall had that, you know, that foresight back then, that fielding is going to win games. And then, you know, all of a sudden, you saw us becoming a better fielding team, because remember, all the teams had different fielders that were really, really good. You know, they took field. I mean, Western Stars, really good fielding team. You know, you got a Bayless Bay, you got Charlie, you know, those guys, you know, but he ran ahead and said, listen, the whole team, we have to, in this 50 over game, you have to feel really well. And so that's what we really went ahead and focused on. So you had guys like Richie Fogo and Yuck Yuck, and these guys were very fast. And then he made us into this average fielders into really good fielding teams. So those were the small adjustments that St. George's made, not only in our batting and trying to, you know, get ahead in the overs, but I think fielding became essential.
When you look at it, Dean, did Wicketkeep help improve your batting? Because you had, in the teams that you played in, even the Cup match trials, you had a variation of different bowlers, but you also had to keep wicket to a lot of these guys. So you almost, what would I do if I was a batsman while you're wicket keeping at times?
No, but I think I started to follow. I started to follow other keepers as well. I mean, I have to admit, I have to put my hands up. At that time, there were other keepers around the world that really started to improve. And I mean, Ian Healy was one that I really enjoyed watching, right? So keepers started to come along in different, you know, from around the world. So they started to, you know, you started to see keepers batting. Alex Stewart, you know, he became this, you know, he became a batsman wicket keep, you know, he could hold the gloves. So in that early part, I started to see different things, and you start even seeing like people like Dujon. You know, Dujon, you know, he was a great keeper, and then you start seeing his batting. So, and then all of a sudden, again, you started to see the, you know, you started seeing the Gilchrist and the Sangakkara and all these guys, the emergence of wicketkeeper batsmen. But again, just like you said, with wicketkeeping, yeah, the intensity changed for me, definitely changed for me, because these guys, to stay in the team, you're only building 10 overs. You either got to be economical or you got to be taking wickets. And in order to stay in the team, a misstumping, a miscatch, you know, they're coming down my throat. So keeping started to become very, very intense. And I mean, Andre could allude to it because, I mean, just like, I mean, his brother was another one that, you know, I looked at and I was just in admiration. Again, he was so effective, so effective. And so that's what you got a chance to see. Keepers becoming very efficient, very effective, and they had to hold the bat as well. But it changed. Yeah.
Doc, as a captain of a team, how important is it for the skipper to make sure that the right fielders are in the right places at the times you need them, especially when you're trying to keep the runs down?
Oh yeah, that's very important. You need to have your fastest fielders sometimes on the boundaries, you know, and your best catches on the boundaries. You know what I mean? It's not about hiding fielders, but it's about, you know, especially when in the last 10 or 15 overs, you know, when guys are trying to score, you need your best fielders to be somewhere in the boundary, maybe one in the covers, you know, to probably like a guy like Charlie Marshall, right? You're not gonna get Charlie on the boundary. Charlie's gonna be always in that circle because he dives. You know, Charlie was one of the best fielders coming up. But you know, the faster fielders, you need to be put on the boundary. A guy like Gary Bregman, always on the boundary. Gary can field anywhere, slips on the boundary. He had a good arm, and also catching. He don't drop anything. So you always want to put your best fielders either on the boundary and maybe one or two inside the circle to stop their singles too. So it's vital in the last 10 or 15 overs. That's how you win matches. What do you say, catches, win matches?
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. And just to add to that, I mean, when you think about, and I was looking at Doc and thinking about the cup match as well, when he had guys like, you know, Richard Pearson, you know, and these guys that were like close in. I mean, as a batsman, you're fearing a lot, you know, and you're thinking to yourself, come on, man, are you serious? And then you go at Stars and you see, you know, you got guys like Albert Steele, Cleon Scotland, these guys that are like close in. Hey, it's pressure on the batsman. It's really, really pressure. But, you know, it could change again.
And we had some really good fielders in Bermuda, though. You know, you had some slip fielders. You know, guys on the boundary. You know, we had some really good fielders in both teams, both cup match teams. Yeah. And I'm seeing like when I was coming up, got in Bay's team. You know, well, yeah, Clevie Bay was not a good fielder. You know, it was so many. Charlie was outstanding. Yeah, outstanding fielder. You know, I'll never run on him. That's right. You know, you had some out, and you talk about Richard Basin too. You guys got strong arms. You know, so as a batsman, you know right away not to run on these guys. You know what I mean? Yeah. After the first ball that you hit, and you see these guys coming in, and the arms, you're not gonna run. Even when they're on the boundary too, you got to make sure they're taking a second run. You better make sure that you're gonna call early. Yeah. And make sure that both of the batsmen need to go. Can't be no hesitation, like you're gonna be run out.
Right. Yeah. We're going to take our next commercial break. When we come back, we want to talk about how we think the season here, if we ever get a season, what we should be concentrating on early because we have international commitments both at the senior level and at the under-19 level. We'll be right back.
There was a time when sea vegetables were considered exotic by most, and then along came sushi consisting in raw fish with rice and sea vegetables, notably seaweed and porpora. The folks at Gimme Health Foods know that sea vegetables are fat-free, low in calories, and one of the richest mineral sources in the vegetable kingdom, as they flourish surrounded by the mineral-rich ocean. And that roasted seaweed is a real good eats. Could this be the ideal snack? We're featuring Gimme Health organic sea salt and avocado and sesame seaweed snacks. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. Well, we know, right now we're at not shelter in place, but stay home order. The cricket season was due to start first week in May. That has actually been pushed back. No dates confirmed yet until we get out of the situation we're in. But with the international commitments, what do you guys think we should be concentrating on to get the players as much time as they could possibly get if these international commitments are still going to go on mid-season? Dean?
Earl, that's a very, very good question. I don't know. if a plan has been put in place for many of the senior players to take advantage of this 1 hour exercise that they actually have. I think it's a great opportunity at this present point in time for players to hone in on nutrition, their own individual nutritional plans, hone in on looking at past videos of themselves batting or bowling or fielding. So it's a great opportunity to players to maybe just re-educate themselves on certain things. Looking at, like I said, especially our international players, I think they would have access through Lorenzo. Go ahead and just, hey, listen, can you get me that footage? Because I want to look at something again. So it's a great opportunity to just re-educate yourself all over again. And taking advantage and trying to stay as fit as you possibly can. It's not much you can do. And I really, really feel bad for the players, because also at the same time, it's nothing like calling a mate over and saying, listen, let's go for a run. Let's go for the gym. These are the sort of things that you just got to do by yourself. Some people will consider it to be unfair. Some people might consider it to say, listen, we need to just call the ICC and just say, listen, this is what's happened, but this is what we have to do. And I think that, like I said, I don't know, but just do individual things for yourself. That's what I could say to the players, and just stay focused and just do what you possibly can right now to re-educate yourself.
What's your thoughts, Doc?
Well, Earl, that's, like I said, that's a difficult question, but you have to do something on your own. But these tournaments that are coming up, I think it's the 50 over tournaments and 2020, both the under 19s and the national team. I had the privilege of coaching the under 19s a couple of months ago, when we was okay on the cases, and we the under 19 players were really looking good. I mean, we was training at PHC, and I just felt sorry for him now, man, because we had 2 practice games lined up to be played at Shelly Bay, and that never materialized. And they're getting ready for a tournament in July, I think July or August in Canada. So, and this is a good group of under 19 players. I mean, first time I'm seeing a lot of these players, and they really look good. It's like 8 or 9 of them that's playing cricket in the UK, and that's good, because they're getting at least there's 8 or 9 players are playing when they go back, because in the UK they're playing now.
That's
but
right.
it's the ones I feel bad for, the ones that are here, because now they had started training. Now it's like, by the time, I don't know how long the lockdown's going to be, and us getting back to training. By the time they start training again, it's like starting all over again, But I understand the protocols, but USA, Canada, I don't know about Canada too much, but I know USA, they're having trials now.
Yeah, they're having an under 19 tournament. Yeah,
and not only at the under 19 level, they're having trials with the seniors too.
Yeah.
So I feel sorry for our seniors, because I think they were supposed to start training shortly too, because they got some major tournaments coming up too. So I just hope that most of the players, it's frustrating. Like, they will have to start doing something on their own, and if the season does start, I don't know, I think it might be 2020 for us. I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Right.
But 2020 in the 50 over tournament, we really need to play them. Because those are the tournaments what we're going to be playing in.
Yeah.
So I don't know which one will be first, which one will be second, but the players will know right away that you still need to be fit to play in both of those tournaments. So they'll have to do something on their own.
And just just to piggyback on that, I was looking at it's Nepal and these countries in they're playing, and
the plan.
I really feel bad. I really, really feel bad for our players, because all these countries, and you look at the fixture list, and I'm just totally shocked.
But,
and they're constantly, they're still playing their cricket, so I you know what I feel like doing? I just feel like saying to just give me 20 players and let's just quarantine them. You know what I mean? And just train them and just put them in quarantine, train them. But again, What can you do?
Yeah, like you say, it's interesting. You said Nepal. Nepal played Holland, Netherlands the other day.
Yeah, Netherlands.
Yes.
And Nepal beat them up. And if you look at Nepal's coronavirus cases, now I'm not saying they must have been doing something over them for them to beat Holland like that. Obviously, those guys have been playing some cricket. And I look at Nepal's cases, they're pretty high too. So they must have been, like you said, Dean, they must have been in quarantine. They must have kept those players together for at least 2 months. And look at them now. I mean, I think Holland scored 140 or 150 something. They got 150 something for one.
That's right. Yeah.
So I'm saying, hold on, Nepal, but Nepal's got some very good players.
Oh yeah. Remember they won the tournament here a few years back.
Back, and I remember playing. I remember on the 19 played against them. They have a really good team.
And many of them play in Australia, don't they?
Yeah,
Many
exactly.
of them play in the Australian League and those sort of things.
That's how they get better.
The exposure as well.
But like I said, all around all the countries around the world are still playing, and what are the only ones that are not playing? Like I said, I understand the protocols, but it's going to be difficult for those players to really, to try to beat the USA, the Canada. Now with these guys playing and Bermuda's not, that means they're going to really they will have to go away early or go into a training camp. Something has to be done, but I don't know, if it's like it's difficult. I really don't know how they're going to do it. But
and just to add to that point, it's just like anything, right? If you're not playing, and remember, when you're not playing or you're not training or you're sort of behind. You know what I mean? And you're behind, you get behind the 8 ball, and that's something that you don't want to do, is to go into a tournament, you're playing catch up. So rather, we're dormant and not playing cricket or not playing international cricket. Sometimes when you go behind, it hurts. It really, really, really hurts because, again, you have to be out there. You have to be playing. You have to be doing something. Again, like you said, to go into these tournaments, not having that behind you, it hurts. So like you said, we have to really find solution to see what we can actually do here to get going.
Yeah. Interesting you said that, Dean, because when Bermuda goes to tournaments, if you look at the international, like I would say international games, the first games or the first 2
historically
games,
that's right.
Always. Yeah. And then in the middle, you see them playing better, but sometimes that's too late then. Like their first game, it's like sometimes it could be close. You think they could win, but you know why they're losing? Because they ain't had that preseason or they ain't had the exposure or playing against top teams before that. So sometimes it's a little bit too late.
I'm glad you said that because what it is. It just comes down to, like you said, it's the intensity level. Playing at and through my experiences, when you first play in your first game in any competition internationally, the intensity level is it's a huge jump from domestic to here. So it's almost like when you play your first game, it's like, okay, and then everything, you got to make the adjustment with everything. So again, it is really tough. And sometimes even when you play in the warm-up games, and I've had the experience playing in a couple of the warm-up games, when you go into the first game, the intensity is still a jump. And some players can make the adjustment, of course, but then some players, they're like, oh, wow. So you have to, like you said, every now and again, you really, really have to.
Yeah. Well, back when you guys were coming along, we used to have the Intercontinental Cup that would help to prepare you. And then when you guys were preparing for the World Cup, you had the tournaments around where it allowed you 3 or 4 warm-up games, and then you adjusted a little quicker. But without that type of preparation, you're kind of going from, as you say, domestic to almost like a space shuttle, that the game becomes that much more faster, that much more intense, where a lot of players, like you say, struggle to adjust early on.
Yeah, it does. I mean, and I think Andre alluded to the fact that we have a lot of young players that are playing overseas in England right now. So I think that, to me personally, is the way forward. getting many of our youngsters off island. Maybe not probably during our season, but probably in the off season, getting them down to South Africa, getting them down to Australia to get them off island to play regular. Find out which youngsters that really want to go this route, and then get them to play there. So when it does come back, when they do come back into the national fold, they could not talk about the intensity level, but show the intensity level. I mean, one of the greatest examples for us was David Hemp. I mean, when David Hemp joined us, I used to think to myself, like, what is wrong with this guy? Yeah, because he his work ethic, his training methods were totally out of this world. And I mean, he doesn't, and he didn't have a problem, doing the extras and everything like that. So really and truly to us, towards the end, we thought we were working up, but this guy was like, something's wrong with this guy. But, at the end of the day, that's what it took.
Yeah, I think guys struggled with him early because he is one of those type of guys. I've got to get off the mark early, so he'll drop the ball into the covers and take off while everybody else is leaning on the bat, saying, "Oh, what are you doing?" But that's just how you have to get to know who you're playing with, who you're batting with, and all of that. But building those relationships when you guys were playing, who was the one batsman, Doc, that you liked to bat with because you didn't have to say much to each other? It was always going to be, okay, I know what he's doing. I know what's going to happen.
Well, in cup match, it was Albert Steed and Richard Basin. That's my two favorite players right there. Especially Richard, because I used to bet with Richard a lot, in the early in my cup match days, be betting together. And with Albert, I sometimes used to bet together the stars, most of the time the stars, and then cup match too. There's two batsmen like I really enjoyed betting with. And then of course for my club, it was guys like Gregory Francis, and you remember Snake, Gregory Francis, Gregory Sampson, but even though Sampson was a slow scorer, but you could depend on him to stay there, And then of course I enjoyed betting with my brother Anthony too, because when I used to bet down in the middle order, we had this thing like, he used to stay there and I used to make the runs, so it was a lot of things. I enjoy betting with Arnold too, but I think
he went to Georgia.
Yeah, he went to Georgia. But there's some and batsmen I like to bet, even with Jeff Richardson, guys like that there I used to enjoy betting with. So yeah, that was my I would say my most the best batsman I like to bet with. There's batsmen there.
What about you, Dean? Who were the guys you like to bet with?
You can always tell the batsman now that both of us in it. You just variety of batsmen. I just like now, internationally, it was Gennaro Tucker. I didn't have no problems at all. It was like when I came to bat with Gennaro, it was so easy. At St. George's, most likely it'd probably be like Clay, but my advantage was I was left-handed. So for a right-handed batsman, now if I had anyone in St. George's team that would bat after, I used to bat 7, so anybody after 7, there used to be a right-handed batsman, used to suit me well. Like if I was batting with Clevey, used to suit me well because bowlers would struggle with the left-hand, right-hand combination. So of course, they bowl to, let's hypothetically say, Clevey, who's a right-handed batsman, and they bowl to him outside the off stump. Then when I get down to that end, where they're going to bowl me, they're trying to find the line, so they're going to bowl me on my pads. Now that's my bread and butter. So off they go. So all of a sudden, I found that batting with the right hand, left hand combination used to suit me really, really well. And that was so easy for me to bat with anyone that was right-handed, because bowlers would go ahead and struggle. But like I said, internationally, if Gennaro was at the wicket and I was batting with Gennaro, it was so easy. Running between the wicket, it was just easy. Yeah.
Now, if you ask me who's my best batsman internationally with Bermuda teams, like it's so many, like Dean said, I like Gennaro Tucker was, Clevie Wade, Charlie Marshall, all these guys, you know, that international, Neil Gibbons, you know, my brother Arnold, internationally, these guys, Clay Smith, all those guys that, you know, that learn to make runs internationally, you know, those guys, Ricky Hill was another one, you know, that international, at international level, those guys always made runs, and especially Gennaro, even Gennaro's daddy, John Tucker, internationally. John always made runs internationally. You know, it's a lot of good batsmen, Seb Brown, a lot of these guys. You know, I don't want to call a lot of the other guys' names, but at international level, these guys perform. You know, at international level. You know.
Well, we're going to take our last commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have more of the Island Stats Cricket Show. We'll be right back.
Just in time for spring cleaning comes a fragrant, naturally effective solution. Mrs. Meyer's Clean Day Household Cleaners. Formulated not with the usual harsh chemicals like chlorine, ammonia, and petroleum derivatives, but powerful natural essences with garden-inspired scents. Safer for your children and pets, and aromatherapeutic too. This month we're featuring Mrs. Meyer's Clean Day Laundry Detergent with geranium and lavender, multi-surface cleaners powered by the invigorating aromas of lavender, bluebell, and honeysuckle, and more. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. Well, I know you guys were talking about those partnerships and all. Who would you like to watch Burl in tandem, Dean, back in your day?
Oh boy! Oh, that's a really good one. I always used to love. Well, if I was keeping, of course. So if I'm keeping, I love. David Adams and Maxwell Curtis. If David Adams and Maxwell Curtis, of course, are building, I was always in the game. 90% of the time, I'm in the game. Something's going to happen. It's either I'm going to get a stump out, I'm going to get a catch, because I used to want to be in the game at all times. So those two would be the ones that I really enjoy. And in actual fact, I used to be in situations where it's just like, hey, get the pace bowlers off, man. I'm seeing, like, get these guys off, man. I want Chick, and I want Maxwell, or I want Calabash, because I want to be up to these stumps and I want to be in the game.
What about you, Doc? What two tandems? What tandem would you like to see, especially if you're feeling up?
The players that I'm played with over my cup match years and seen, and one's Terry Burgess, right? Late Terry Burgess. And I used to also like Vincent Cotrot, playing with him too, you know. That's my first cup match days. I used to love watching Cobill and Terry Burgess. And then you have guys like Anthony Edwards and late Anthony Edwards and Al James too. For, you know, bowlers that I played against, and bowlers that I'm seeing to give a lot of batsmen trouble with those bowlers. Of course, for St. George's, I used to like Adrian King and Chick Adams too.
Yeah. And who would do, if you're going to play against a team, who would two bowlers you always hated to face because of what they were able to do with the ball? Who would those two bowlers be, Doc?
One, well, I would say Neil Gibbons is one, because it's tricky. You know, it's in sweetness. And then the other one had to be Maxwell Curtis, man, the spinner. And but the pace, I used to like Adrian King, because you know why? It really made you sit up and bet. You know. Soon I remember Adrian King came to the island. You know, first day he had to come to the airport, so you know who signed him up. Who Jenkins, you know,
We'll leave that part out.
But, you know something? Facing Adrian King, man, you know, and he was at his prime then. You guys remember, man, like, and it really kept you on your toes, man. So I would say Adrian King in my early years, and Neil Gibbons, man. Neil, that somehow, you know, he's just the bowler that you Neil should come on at a time, right? If you need a wickets, you come on and get your wicket, and then they take him off.
Yeah.
So I would say Adrian King and Neil Gibbons.
What about you, Dean?
and also Maxwell Curtis.
Okay.
No, I would totally agree. I would totally agree with Doc in saying that Newell was oh yeah, he was tricky. Even with left-handers, he was tricky. I mean, mind you, he'll get the ball to swing. Dip and do all sorts of things. But for me, my trouble was always the off-break bowler going away from the left-handed bat. I always called it the blind eye. I thought I had a blind eye, or my eye was messed up because, but the same thing used to happen, and Charlie used to say the same thing, that anything going away from the left-hander. If you think Clay Smith would give me trouble building off breaks going away, like seriously, but that used to happen. Anyone that would actually go away from my bat, but no, Bermuda's had some amazing bowlers, amazing. But you know what, Earl? Playing different players on different surfaces in Bermuda, if you didn't adjust your style of batting, so if you would have sleepless nights. So if I know if I'm going down to Bayless Bay and I'm facing Noel Gibbons, I'm not going to have a good night's sleep because that's his home field, and you would have to make the adjustment. And if you get on top of him early, then you're fine. But if he was, of course, if he's playing in St. George's, I'm sitting on him. I'm fine because I know, how to deal with him. But but like you said, you have some players that wherever you go, they don't, they're going to give you nightmares. But back then you really had to study that. And we go back to the wicket, the preparation of the wickets here. You have to know the wickets. I remember this one guy, real quick, used to tell me when police used to play in St. George's, and I didn't know how true it was. He used to say, if the tide was high, police team used to bat first. No, I don't know how true it was, right? But he used to say that with the tide, because it's easy to face, the bowlers if the tide is high or there's a crosswind. But all those things used to be taken into consideration. I don't know, Doc. Do you?
No, but it's true what you said about Noel at Seabreeze Oval. Remember, Seabreeze Oval. Noel that ball was swinging. When you play at Bayless Bay and you're facing Noel, like you said, you really have to do your homework, right? Because you're playing at the Seabreeze Oval. It's got the breeze and the ball is swinging, especially to a right hand. It's swinging. There's Indicus coming in. He was dangerous. But also, I remember you mentioned police. I'm sure you played up on Police Field, Dean. But there should be some of the best wickets. Not only the best wickets, but they was truly bet on. You go up Police Field playing on the island. You could play your shots. You had some of the quick, fastest bowlers. If you scored 250, 300 runs, sometimes that wasn't enough. That's how good the wicket was, and it was fast. I'm just, I'm surprised. Like right now, when police do the recruiting, they never bring in no more cricketers. Because before,
who is it? Hutsy, right? Axel Hutzel.
Hutzel, he was one of. Be back before when they used to hire the policemen, they had to play cricket.
And do some form of sport,
Yes. Yeah. But now, they don't do that anymore, and we really miss that because our players now doesn't get that. They don't get the chance to face those fast bowlers. So sometimes when they're going to play against teams that they struggle a bit, because it's something new to them. Not all the players, but some of the players struggle because they're not used to playing against these fast bowlers. Whereas before, sometimes we guys used to be used to playing against those bowlers, the Adrian Keens, the Hutzels, and I remember facing Oliver Bean and all these guys. These guys are going to bunch you. If you couldn't hook or if you couldn't cut, you're not going to score no runs.
Right.
Because that's all they're going to bowl to you. But right now, a lot of the wickets are not prepared like that no more. Those guys used to prepare wickets like down the islands, hard track. So you're going to score runs, and they're going to score runs too. And makes it an interesting game. Now and then you get some good wickets. But I think over the years that I'm seeing now, a lot of the wickets that I'm seeing, like a lot of them are not the up and down, they're not consistent. The bunts not consistent.
Yeah.
So if you're prepared, and that's why a lot of our bowlers are struggling. when they go
Yeah.
overseas, because
Yeah.
down here they're getting 5 or 6 wickets because the ball
What-
staying a little jumping. And then when they
Ah.
go overseas with a good strip, they don't know where to go. So it's
Yeah.
we need to start fixing some battle wickets on the island.
One of the things I remember growing up, you can go across a ground on any given day, and the groundsman's out there doing something to the wicket.
Oh yeah.
Where now,
Yeah.
you're getting wickets prepared on the Friday for the weekend.
Yeah.
So, that preparation time, I remember there'd be times where you go out the club and Burr's rolling the wicket with a cover on it. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just to make sure that it's getting, so every day that wicket was getting something. You used to go up Bay or go across Devonshire Wreck and somebody's doing something to the wicket. So, and then if you're training on it, it's one of those things where I've said over and over and over and over, we can't play international cricket at the stadium if we don't play cricket at the stadium. Because nowhere else in the world do you play at a stadium that doesn't play cricket during the time that cricket is being played, and then expect the wicket to play true. It's not going to happen.
Well, just to add something, because I think still today we have some really good groundsmen around.
Mhm.
So I think there's also this balance as well, because if you really think about it, fast bowling, and I've always said it, it's hard work.
Yeah,
It's hard work.
you got to bend your back, mate.
You really, it's hard, gruesome work. And so I think that even our bowlers today, and just going back some years as well, when they started to realize that the amount of work that had to go in to bowling, and I'll never forget, and quick story, we were in Namibia and Ryan Steed, all right? So Ryan Steed was bowling, all right? This guy he must have rolled the wicket all throughout the night, because when we came first thing in the morning, he was still rolling the wicket in an orange suit, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
the night that we had a warm up to the morning, he was still rolling the wicket. But it was about 100 degrees, and Ryan's rolling in and he's bowling, and he's just like, hey, this is work. So I think that, when some people look at these fast bowlers and the bowling, and they're thinking that, when you think back, Terry, Pacer, these guys, Kenny Phillips, they worked.
Mm.
They really they really had to work hard.
Mm.
And I think what happens is, I think that, that's why a lot of times people have a tendency to go say, go to a spinner, or let's turn into a spinner.
Mm.
I remember years back, I won't say the bowler's name, but after a couple of games, he turned into a spinner. I said, well, how could our main fast bowler turn into a spinner? But it's work. And I think that we have to make sure that players understand, and even today, and we talked about the fitness thing, cricket is about fitness. It's got to be about, you got to have a strong work ethic in cricket. And that's the main point of it all. Cricket is work. It's hard work.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, any closing remarks, gentlemen?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just got one. I just hope that we can get the season started. I don't know when it's going to start before the protocols and stuff, but I just hope that the clubs now, club and players, like Dean said, for the players first, get first thing is to get in shape, and for the clubs to start, as soon as this happens, start preparing some wickets, so we can have some good cricket matches coming up. Hopefully you do start. I don't know when, but hopefully we get to play some cricket this year, because, like I said, we have a lot of international tournaments.
Me?
Hey, take advantage for the clubs. This period of time right now, take advantage of your time to plan. Once the season starts, get right into it. You've got more than enough time. We've got more than enough time to plan. For the players, do something on your own, reflect. What are you going to do different this year? And hey, get ready to start. That's it. I'm excited. I'm really, really excited. But hey, get started now.
Definitely.
It's never too late.
Well, gentlemen, this is a good way to start the Island Stats Cricket Show. We'll be back next week, Sunday. Hopefully, we will either have someone from the board to give us an update, or a coach of a team that can actually say how they're planning to address the upcoming season. So enjoy your night, guys.
Thanks, Earl.
Okay.
Take care, Dre.
too.